This episode is sponsored by Phrase Flowers, a Western New York family-run flower farm and floral preservationist. They offer unique and one-of-a-kind pressed flowers in the shapes of buffaloes. Each buffalo is handcrafted, and because they are made with flowers, each one has their own look and personality.
You can get a hold of them on their website at phraseflowers.com. That's F-R-A-S-E flowers.com. Or check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Bring more joy and color into your life at Phrase Flowers.
What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Monday, March 3rd, 2025. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil. Episode 339. Massive episode to cover today. We had Bandits versus Saskatchewan. Number one spot in the standings on the line. And obviously, a little spoiler, Buffalo gets the job done. Couple housekeeping works to take over here. Our normal Wednesday interview series will continue. I had a little trouble, but I nailed down an interview for Wednesday. We'll be interviewing somebody on Monday. That episode's coming out on Wednesday to cover the Calgary Roughnecks. Excited for that one because it's back-to-back weeks of Calgary. I got an idea for the next week because I don't know how many people would like me to interview back-to-back Calgary people, Phil. So I have an idea for the second one. It's kind of interesting because San Diego was back-to-back. You had, and that I got them on the second half. I started that series on the second half. Yeah, Calgary back-to-back. I believe there's another back-to-back. Or no, Toronto and Albany. So that's the last two of the double digits, not of back-to-back, but those are the other teams that we're facing twice this season. I think there's one more mixed in there as well. I can't remember who the
Rochester.
Rochester, yep, that was already done earlier this season. So, yeah, This is the last back-to-back of a same opponent this year, which is nice because that back-to-back week for us is going to be like, okay, we just talked about all these people. Let's just listen to the last episode. But, yeah, I got that one coming out on Wednesday, so look forward for that one. Those have been a nice success story of people actually listening and gaining more information on the team that's next on Buffalo's list. But it broke yesterday. This is the secret that we've been keeping, and I will hats off. Hat off to Phil. He's been busting his butt behind the scenes, making this happen. Tap That Tap Room. We're taking it over on March 22nd. It dropped. We've been keeping this a secret, working on a bunch of stuff behind the scenes, but we got merch giveaways. They're going to give away an extra set of tickets that game, and we have a grand prize to hand out after the game. So make sure you're there. It is free to enter. You don't even have to do anything. Just show up to Tap That Tap Room, just get some drinks, get some food, enjoy a great environment. And they've been having more and more people come out every single time. I'm not saying we're the cause of it, but maybe we're the cause of it. It doesn't hurt to have us backing it. Maybe it does. But yeah, hats off to Phil. He's been busting his butt behind the scenes for the Tap That Tap Room takeover, and I'm ultra excited for it. It's less than 3 weeks away.
Yeah, they've been a really great collaboration partner.
Hands down. Yep.
Yeah, they've been easy to communicate with, easy to kind of set this stuff up with. It's been a lot of back and forth between us trying to figure stuff out, them trying to figure stuff out, us trying to figure stuff out together. So it took a little time. We've pushed it a few times. The original idea was the fact that they have been a sponsor on the show for a full year. So we were going to do a big anniversary blowout collaboration. That would have been in February, and the Bandits games just did not line up. It was going to be very tough, so we pushed it to March. Hopefully the weather's a little bit nicer, but yeah, I mean, it's all comes down to our anniversary with them. They've been a great sponsor for us this entire time, and again, we talk about it a lot with sponsors, but we back them because we believe in what they do. We believe in Tap That Tap Room as a whole, and we believe in them as a really great place to watch Bandits games and do Bandits activities, and even all their other events. They do a lot of really interesting events that we talk about a lot on this show, so really excited to go there, have a big collaboration, give away some merch. It's another thing that we've been wanting to do for a long time on this show, is give away some free stuff, so we are finally able to do that due to our sponsors, and we really appreciate that because it is something that since we started, we've been wanting to inch closer to, is giving back to the listeners in any way we can. So like you said, free to enter, everything there. Show up, you get a ticket, you're into the all the drawings. So there's going to be a lot of them. I will say that. We have over 10 at least drawings, so you'll have a good chance. It's not a one and done kind of thing. So go there, get some free merch, have a great time, watch the game. Hopefully we get a Bandits victory and have some fun.
Yeah, the secret behind the scenes producer Pat will also be in attendance.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that. As we lead up to it, maybe we'll give a nice little surprise of what the grand prize after the game is. But yeah, I think just us alone, we have over 10 things that we're giving away. Tap That Tap Room has 2 sets of tickets they're giving away. It's going to be a very fun night. And again, it's free to come. You just got to pay for your drinks and food. That's all you got to do. You're automatically entered in to win some free merch. And like Phil mentioned, we've been trying to figure out a way to, because this is not a full-time job. We don't get paid for this. So like we've said multiple times, whatever money comes in, we're putting it right back into the show. And we're showing that by giving away some free merch coming up on the 22nd. But I'm excited. We're going to keep advertising and pushing that out to try to fill up Tap That Tap Room so people have to watch.
Standing room only.
Yeah, no, not just that.
It.
I want people outside on the patio having to watch this game because they can't get in. That's how packed I want Tap That Tap Room. So make sure you're available on the 22nd of March. It's an away game. Sure, there might be some people going to Albany, but guess what? Better place to go, and I shouldn't really say that, but too bad. Better place to go is Tap That Tap Room. Don't even worry about going to Albany. Buffalo's going to beat their butts anyways. They don't need you in the stands to cheer for them. Save your trip, save your gas money, come to Tap That Tap Room.
Win some stuff.
Win some free stuff, yeah. So we'll go over the intro here. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. 2 weeks in a row, I remember to post it on Blue Sky, X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, literally everywhere. Just follow us there. You'll listen to our beautiful voices. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article is dropping on Tuesday, breaking down this game in further detail. Ref's Corner, goalie breakdown. It's a fantastic article. Plenty of information so you don't keep blaming Matt Vince. We're getting there. There's less people doing it. My article will drop on Thursday with Week 15 power rankings. I'm almost done, Phil. Got like 6 more to go. Whew. It's been a long season. You can check out our store on our link tree. So if you think, oh man, I'm never lucky, I'm not going to win any merch, you can go there, buy the merch, show up in it. We'll shake your hand, and maybe you'll win more free merch. It's at the top of the website or at the social media sites at the top of the website. You just hit the shop tab. It takes you right there. Could be easier. Represent the BSC on the go and look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. We'll finally dive into it now. Bandits versus Rush. I was expecting, and we both predicted, a higher scoring game. Even the broadcast beforehand said, hey, hope you took the over. Hope you didn't listen to him. Hope you took the under, because he was 9-7. Nanacoke, Byrne, and Frazier each had 2. Weiss, Martin, and Bucky each had 1. Vince, 41 of 48 saves. Shots were 48 to 45 in favor of Buffalo. Buffalo 0 for 1 on the power play, just one opportunity, and the only penalty came on an illegal substitution. So not even a player got penalized. Saskatchewan 1 for 5. Buffalo did a great job on the penalty kill, and faceoffs 11 for 9. Phil, not the type of game we were expecting, especially with the news that broke earlier that day. You broke it on our chat, and it broke later on the internet. I was busy working on my floor all day, but massive, massive victory for this team to not just hang on to the number 1 seed, but push Saskatchewan to their 3rd loss. So you got a 2-game buffer now, including the head-to-head over Saskatchewan, because it's going to be very difficult for anybody to pass Buffalo right now. And I know there's still 8 games on the schedule, but very tough for teams to pass Buffalo for that number 1 seed. And that championship will run through Bandit Land if Buffalo's able to do it.
Yeah, I think it's official now. I don't know if my math is accurate, so you'll have to fact check me on this one. But I was waiting until after this game if they got the win, because if they didn't, it would have been much trickier. But now with the win and the head-to-head, it is, I believe, 6 games is their magic number for clinching home field throughout everything. With the 8 games they have left, I think if they go 6-2, which is still a monster ways to go. Not saying it's easy, not saying it's right there, but I do think we can officially start looking at a magic number for clinching home field advantage throughout playoffs. And I think it is 6 if that math is
the
accurate.
Better one, Dave Buchanan 48 minutes ago as of this recording, so they're about 2 wins away from clinching a playoff spot.
Even better.
So, yeah, your math is probably mathing right. I would go with that.
But I love it. It's fun, and it was, yeah, like you said, it was very. I mean, I don't want to say this because it seems not mean, but just weird to say. I thought it was a pretty boring game. Low scoring. It was just a huge chess match, right? It was just very playoff atmosphere without the rivalry aspect built in. Like, it just wasn't amped up. It was like, yes, it was 1-2, and it should have been more amped, but it seemed like the players on both teams were just very calm the whole game. There really weren't too many fights after the play. There wasn't that much tussling. Like, I mean, even the penalties kind of show it. 0, I think, in the fourth quarter, only 1 in the third, so 1 penalty in the whole second half. So it just wasn't that, like, amped up Buffalo versus Toronto kind of atmosphere. It was very, nobody wanted to make a mistake or make the mistake to lose the game. So it ended up being a very low scoring, very defensive heavy, goalie heavy battle, and it just wasn't as exciting. Like you said, like that high scoring game is what we were expecting. It was just much lower, much grittier, and just much more of a chess match between two of the best teams in the league. And it felt like a playoff game where teams just were low scoring again, just didn't want to make that big mistake that would cost them the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a game that definitely showed that these two teams rarely play each other because there was really no bad blood between each other. So you saying that, there's no fights or pushing and shoving after the whistles and stuff like that, it definitely showed because there wasn't really any bad blood because these players really don't see each other very often. But yeah, Saskatchewan, they held a lead 4-2 at half. I'm sorry, 4-2 at the end of the first. It was 5-3 lead at half. Buffalo 6-5 after the third, and they kind of took over the fourth quarter. But Saskatchewan, between goals 2 and 5, it lasted 7 minutes and 34 seconds. No Saskatchewan goals from the 12:01 mark in the second until the 11:22 mark in the fourth. They only allowed 2 Saskatchewan goals between the 52-second mark in the first quarter until 53 seconds left in the game. This defense and Matt Vince was able to shut it down and we went into this saying, Saskatchewan's very speedy. They're quick in the transition game. They have one of the best defenses in the entire league, and it definitely showed. And I think the overall overview of the game, before we go into bigger details, is I thought Vince stole the game. I thought the offense, Saskatchewan did a very good job of taking Smith out of it. He did not look the same type of Dane Smith that we have seen in the past, and this is 2 games in a row where the defenses seem to kind of take the ball out of his hands. I think Boudreau and Gerlant and Bobby Kidd III did a very good job on Dane Smith, not giving him what he wants to see, but it looked like the offense also was taking very early shots in the shot clock. The transition game, I think Buffalo did better than Saskatchewan did, which I think is something going into the game that I was not expecting. I think the defense, especially in the second half, looked really good. Dooley, after a rough first half, I thought he looked really good. Martin and Belter, I don't think you're going to get enough credit in this one. And then you get the massive win to move to 9-1. You send Saskatchewan to their 3rd loss on the season, which is massive. So overall, I think this is a very... I think the chess match was a perfect definition of this game, as neither team wanted to make the mistake, and Buffalo made just enough moves to get that checkmate.
Yeah, I think we'll go over the offense first. I don't want to keep breaking down the whole game all over the place. So we'll start with the offense. I thought they looked bad for most of the game. And I know Saskatchewan's defense is really good, and I don't want to take anything away from them or Frank. They both played really solid games. So I'm not trying to say it should have been easy for Buffalo, but this is the first time we've seen them held under 13 goals all year. And I thought they just looked sloppy. The passing was all over the place. A lot of shots weren't even hitting the net. They were just hard and wide and all over the place. And a big part of that is when Frank is playing as well as he was, you have to hit those pinpoint shots, which is what we always say about Matt Vince. His angles are always there, that if you don't get that perfect shot, it's not going in. And the same thing is what Chiliano was doing to the Bandits. The Bandits were forcing a lot of just tough shots and just trying to hit that perfect corner. So they ended up going high and wide all over the place. Smith's bounce shots were bouncing 10 feet over the net. And I don't know, they just looked sloppy. They looked just not, they didn't seem like they were trying to get into the middle all that often. They seemed like they were just staying on the outside, passing it around. And then the other big thing is the transition game for Saskatchewan. This is something we mentioned in the pregame, is that would Buffalo try to get their offense off the field early because they were worried about Saskatchewan's transition. I think they did. I think they were forcing shots, and they left one guy out there to fight for the ball, and 4 guys were already running back with 5 seconds left on the shot clock because they're so worried about that transition game. And in a game that ended up being 1-9-7, by my count, I don't think Saskatchewan scored a single transition goal. And in a close game like this, taking that transition away from them because your offense is having a lot tighter shot clocks in their own minds kind of helped you win. I mean, 1 or 2 transition goals by the Rush, and this game's flipped a different way. But because the offense was getting off sooner, it helped cut that transition. But I think it also impacted the offense not being able to really set up and do what they wanted or do what they normally do in a game where they're less worried about the transition game.
Yeah, I mean, when we had Cody Jansen on, he was saying that if you get 3 or 4 transition goals and you're able to hold Byrne and Smith to 6 points or less, I think you're going to walk out victorious. And
that would have been true.
Yeah, they held Josh Byrne to 6 points. They held Smith to 5. He was 0 for 6 on shooting. And they just didn't get that transition game. So I think when we were talking about it in the preview show, we were saying, okay, what would you do? And I went, hey, I would go balls to the wall. I would have my forwards back checked constantly and try to cause those turnovers, kind of like we saw with the Toronto game, and where they caused 9 turnovers based on my count. They did the exact opposite of that. They were getting off the field very quickly, and that was one of the things that I was saying. They could do that, and that's exactly what they're doing. There was one that's just, I don't know why it's sticking in my brain, but they had the ball with like 6 seconds to go, and Scanlon was going out to set the pick. They were able to get the ball, and instead of just going back in the play, he just kept running right to the bench. So that was the type that seemed like that was the game plan, and it turned out to be working because I think, excluding this game, and even if you want to include this game, I still think Saskatchewan has one of the best transition departments in the entire league. The numbers didn't back it up in this one, but the speed is what absolutely kills them. And because Buffalo's offense played the way they did, getting off the field the way they did, they were able to neutralize that aspect that, to me, I thought the Rush had an advantage over Buffalo. So that goes back to coaching. That goes back to John Tavares and Steve Dietrich and instilling in the forwards, hey, if the shot's not there, live to fight another day, get off the field, and get the defense on there so we don't get burned in the transition game and give up one of those games. But in the few transition attempts they had, Matt Vince shut them out. But I agree with you to the extent of the offense shooting wide. It looked like Saskatchewan's defense was doing a phenomenal job D'ing up on them, that Buffalo was relying on such in close quarters passing. I mean, you're thinking about the Frazier one, the in close one. You're thinking about the Nanakoke one where he caught it one-handed and was able to put that one in. Those are the type of passes that needed to connect to be able to do it. There were a few times where it looked like, Bucky's inside or McKay was inside where they got to that spot. It's just they didn't connect on the passing because the defense was so good on Saskatchewan. So this one is not me fully blaming the offense on them only scoring 9 goals. I mean, so like you mentioned, this is the first time in 10 games they didn't score 13 goals. So I'm not putting it on them. I'm giving my flowers to giving my flowers to Saskatchewan's defense for what they were able to do against Buffalo's offense.
Yeah, and I think, like we said, the strategy going in, if your strategy is to cut out the transition game of the Rush, I think you're accepting the fact that it's going to be a low-scoring chess match type of a game, and you're not expecting your offense to go out there and put up 13. You're expecting your offense to do just enough to win that game, trusting that, yes, it might take all game to get to realistically 7 goals because Martin scored 1 and then we scored the empty netter. So your offense only scored 7 goals the whole game, no power plays because there was only 1 opportunity. But I think you're just kind of banking on the fact that your offense is talented enough to get 7 past Frank at least. And then if you cut out the transition, your defense and Vince are good enough to hold the Rush to even less than that. And it was just the strategy going into it seemed like they did not want to play a high-scoring runaway game. They did not want to try to win 13-12. They were going to play very conservative. I guess the best way to put it, that we haven't used that perfect word for it yet. They did not play high-flying offense. They played very conservative, do what you can, get off the field, let your defense and Vince take over, and it worked to perfection.
So before we move on to the defense, let's get our second sponsor on this show. We briefly talked about them in the beginning, but Tap That Tap Room, Phil, take it away.
Tap That Tap Room is still At 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York, they are Buffalo's first women-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps, offering a wide variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
First, I took off my hat to Phil. Now I'm taking my hat off to all of Bandits fans. Thank you for showing up the way you do to these Bandits watch parties. They're getting absolutely packed, and we're expecting to see them even more packed on the 22nd when we're there. But they showed pictures the game on Saturday. It was jam-packed. Absolutely love to see Bandits fans just flooding there because it's by far the best place. We defend them on Facebook and all the social media sites all the time because they truly are the best spot to watch this game. It's every TV's on for these games. The sound is on.
And giveaways.
You know exactly what you're getting when you get there. It's not like, okay, somebody else walks in, hey, can you turn on the baseball game? Hey, can you turn on the hockey game? No, it's Bandits Central.
Every TV.
Every single TV. There's multiple of them. There's not just one. So get there. There's not a bad seat in the place. But Friday is happy hour, 3 to 7. Then at 8 o'clock, live music with Slim Chance. Saturday is the Bandits watch party starting at 6:30 to take on Calgary at home. So if you can't get tickets, go to Tap That Tapper and maybe you'll win the ticket giveaway and get the next game at home versus, I think, Vegas. Next Wednesday, 1911, green cider sampling. Me and Brooke stayed at one of their Airbnbs this summer. We got some of their sampling. Delicious. Make sure you head there, 7 to 9. But, again, we're going to keep hammering this on home. Saturday the 22nd of March, 7 p.m., we're taking over Tap That Tap Room. It's not going to be Tap That Tap Room anymore. It's going to be BSC Central. Merch giveaways, an extra set of tickets given away by Tap That Tap Room, and the grand prize you will not want to miss. So make sure you free up your night and head down to Tap That Tap Room. Phil, myself, and producer Pat will all be in attendance. Make sure you check out their Facebook page for all their posted events and to find out what's on tap and what's on deck. Check out tapthattaproom.com because, Phil, they have something
for everyone.
We are on point with that now. Defense. I thought the defense, minus a small window in the first quarter, was the best defensive game that we have seen them play in a very, very long time. We've been saying it for weeks that Matt Vince just doesn't, he's not making those big time saves. We'll group Matt Vince here into the defense here because he is the backbone of that. We have not seen them lock it down the way we did the first 3 to 4 games of the season. And based on what Adam Levi tweeted from his vacation spot, I don't know why he keeps talking when he's supposed to be on vacation. He held, or the team held.
He just can't help himself.
Yeah, I'm the same way. When I'm on vacation, my phone's always in my hands scrolling what I'm missing. He posted that Bandits, besides Zach Mans, held the whole Saskatchewan Rush team to 3 for 62 shooting. That's ridiculous. Like the numbers under 5% shooting when they do the math there. It's just ridiculous. I mean, yes, Robert Church was not in the lineup, and that definitely helps. The Saskatchewan Rush team does not look the same when Robert Church is not in the lineup. That's fair. You can say that all the want. The same thing about last week versus the San Diego Seals. Benny wasn't in the lineup, Banesh, so on and so forth, all those names that weren't in the lineup. But, you held Austin Shanks goalless on 9 shots. You hold Brock Haley goalless. Zawada was the only goal scorer besides Triolo for the righties to score. And then the lefties. It was just Zach Mans. He went 4 for 9 shooting. Keenan, he went scoreless, 6 shots on net. Walter had 4 shots on net, went scoreless. It was an
Triolo
onslaught
as well,
of
just 1 goal.
It was fantastic defense, but on top of that, when there were some breakdowns, Matt Vince was making those big-time saves that we have not seen him make for a while. So I will, hats off. Hats off. This is my motto today. I absolutely loved how the defense was playing, the switch-offs. Everything was working perfectly after that first quarter. They dialed it in. They only allowed 3 more goals the rest of the game. This was the best defensive effort we have seen since early January. And it's showing that, yes, Steve Dietrich's probably on the phone making calls to try to bring in another defenseman. I think that's obvious, not just because of the struggles that they have seen the last 3 to 4 games, but because defensive players get hurt. We've seen it. Matt Spanger went down. Dylan Robinson went down. Spanger's done for the year. We'll see when we get Dylan Robinson back. But you never have enough defensive pieces. But today was a showing that the defensive pieces that they currently do have work against a legit threat of an offense. Again, no Robert Church, but this is still a dangerous weapon on offense that is so deep that you don't know who's going to come from. Besides Zach Mans, they shut everybody else down.
Yeah, it was really incredible to watch the defense. They were just smothering the entire time. I had at least 4 really big saves by Vince in huge situations. The 2-on-1 early on in the game during the penalty, the breakaway that they had with a huge save.
Second, yeah.
He had a few other ones, which we can talk about later. But overall, like you said, the big thing was the defense was doing what Vince needed them to do. And when they did fall short, Vince was there to bail them out. And they just played off each other like they did the first 3 games of the year, where they played really, really solid defense together. And when they did break down, Vince was there. And this was one of those games that I think the biggest thing about this with the trade deadline coming up is, like you said, yes, I'm sure they're looking to bring a defenseman in due to injuries, but I think this proves that they don't need to force anything major. They don't need to make a huge move to bring anybody in. You just shut down what is arguably, I don't think it's even arguable, I think this is the number 2 team in the league right now, even though they just lost to the Bandits. Everyone's losing to the Bandits. It's fine. I think the Rush are still the number 2 team in the league, and you were able to hold them to 7 goals. So, yes, Church was missing. They still have a lot of offensive talent outside of Church. So you still held their team to a very low number, and your defense played great. Like you said, Dooley, I thought, looked really good. He had that one where he kind of let Mans sneak past him. He was upset about it, but he's a rookie in just a few games, and I thought he looked the part. He looked like he fit in with the Buffalo defense, and he'll continue to get better as the season goes on. So I think the biggest thing with the defense and Vince, not that Vince was ever an issue, he's always going to be in no matter what, but I think for the defense and the trade deadline coming up, I hope they make a move just for depth purposes, because you never know what's going to happen, but they don't need to force a big move, I think is the big part. They don't need to bring in somebody who's massive. I did hear on Priola's podcast that they were pushing pretty hard to try to get the Snoo in the building. That would have been yikes for any other team if the Bandits were able to swing that trade. That would have been terrifying for everybody. I think at this point they don't need to make that kind of move because their defense is so smothering and played so well. They were only credited, they were credited with a lot of block shots. I think they had a lot more than they were credited with again. Something that the league really, really needs to work on is getting a statistician to go back and watch all these games and further mark down what they're missing, because I don't know how you're going to have stats and records that are probably just not accurate. But I think the team did a really good job soaking shots again, and the defense as a whole just, again, smothering is the best way to put it. Saskatchewan looked bad on offense, and it's because the defense was playing so well. So huge credit to them in a game where your offense finally wasn't there to bail you out. In the last 6 games, the Bandits have not held a team to under 10 goals, so the offense has been needed to be what causes them to win. But in a game where your offense was finally not the focal point, the defense was able to step up and smother the Rush and keep that to a low-scoring victory.
Yeah, they were credited with 13 block shots and 8 cost turnovers.
Which is a lot.
But I completely agree with you. I've said it all year long now, and we should continue to fight for this because for some reason
to do it.
Things end up happening that we complain about on these shows. I'm not saying that we're responsible for it. I'm not even saying that anybody that's in charge is listening to this show, because we know they're not, and we're just a small little podcast in Buffalo. But it does seem like things that we push, the league already has an eye on. So I think rather than us say, the league's listening to us, blah, 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 and all that kind of crap, because we know it's not true.
Put it in the atmosphere.
Maybe we're thinking on the same wavelength as the league already is. And yeah, hire a statistician that their only I'll do it. I would love to do it if I get to watch all these games back and just, I already love watching all the games, so might as well just keep a numbers tally. Just have somebody hire them every Monday morning. Their job is to just go back and watch it, because here's the thing. There is somebody at the game that's crediting that, but it's a referee that already has another job for it. Have somebody Monday morning. It's not a bad thing that if you correct it after the fact. It's just getting the numbers correct. So, some of these players have built-in contracts where they meet incentives. And if you look at it and say like Paul Dawson, who last week only had credited with 5, and I said he definitely had double digits. If he goes at the end of the day and he still wants to continue to play, and he's going, hey, I had 48 block shots, when in reality he had 60 block shots, that could be a difference between thousands of dollars for players that already are making peanuts in this league. So to me, it's even less about getting the numbers right for the stat books. It's getting the numbers right so players, when it's time to negotiate a contract, have legit numbers that they know are true and factual to go to the negotiating table and just go, this is what I got. These are the correct numbers. You can't even lie about it. Give me my money. That it's just that simple. I'll do it. Just pay me half of what you would pay anybody else to do it. I'll sit on my couch on Mondays. I'll type it up. I'll get the numbers right, and boom, done. But yeah, since there was only 7 goals against, I'll just run through these really quick. Normally, I used to do it, and then they started giving up 13, 14 goals, and it's like, this takes hours. Zawada, the first goal, Martin switches, but it looks like Priolo has switched the switch off on Zawada and runs right down the middle, beats Vince. Vince had no shot. Mans, off the TV timeout, it looked like maybe it was a play design where it's just like, okay, Weiss is not going to expect it because he runs down the field and then just speeds up. Great bouncer. It was a great shot. He was off balance, and he somehow bounced it in front of Vince, and it ends up going top cookie. It was great. Man's third one, swim move. That's the one that he beats Dooley, I believe. Mans gets to the spot and he beats Vince. That was the one that was like, oh, okay, that's a sign that you just beat a rookie. But I thought that was one of his few mistakes, and he was very, very quick on his feet in the whole second half. I think he made a great adjustments. Triolo, Wires, for whatever reason, leaves him and goes to double Haley. Whitty moves to go play Haley. I'm sorry, he didn't leave to go cover Haley. He leaves Haley for whatever reason, goes to double. I don't even remember who it was. Maybe Zawada. He leaves Haley alone. Haley finds Triolo because Whitty moved off of him. He's all alone. It's 4-2 Saskatchewan. The fifth one, Mans, it's just a great shot. There's no other way around it. It was a perfect shot. The sixth one is the one that I think Vince wants back. It was the fourth goal by Zach Mans. It kind of just snuck through, low shot. Matt Vince usually has all those ones, but 1 of 7. It's the only one I'm putting on Matt Vince. And the last one, Byrne, caused turnover behind the net, runs to get it. Then he's just hopping back and forth like a little bunny in front of the net, trying to block the shot, and it goes in. So really, for the goals that mattered, it was 9-6. I'm not even going to count the one. I'm going to count it, but the Hossack one that goes in, it should have been a 9-6 game if Byrne just doesn't have that thing turn over. But credit to the Rush. They pressured the heck out of the ball on that one. But yeah, that was the 7 goals. I really only have one on Matt Vince.
Yep, completely agree. We can get into the horrible camera angles and just the horrible camera. Just following the game was brutal, but that was one of the ones I went back and tried to watch like 3-4 times. You can't see it. I have no idea what happened to Byrne behind the net. I don't know why
I saw it. I did see it. He was right behind the net. They had the Saskatchewan players going back behind both sides. I don't know who was on the right side of the net, but he's the one that got a stick on it, and it just dribbled over the top of the net, and that's how it ended up in the middle. That I did see it back. I had to watch it 3 or 4 times to be able to see it. If you watch it very carefully, you have to watch it very, very carefully. But yeah, who was ever on the right side of looking at the net, who was ever on the right side of it, he's the one that got the stick on Josh Burns' stick, and that's why it dribbled the way it did.
Yeah, I didn't like that play from the Bandits coming out of a timeout.
No, it was bad play.
There just needs to be a better setup coming out of a timeout. It was off of a review by the officials, so it wasn't the Bandits' timeout, but you still have plenty of time to set something up better than that. You know what the Rush are looking to do, exactly what they ended up doing. I'm not saying it's going to happen. They fixed it after the Bandits took their own personal timeout in the same situation. They had a better setup, but that simply can't happen, and I do feel bad for Vince because he made a huge save, and then nobody was there for the rebound, and they just scooped it up and burned it past him. But, the camera angles just horrendous. So many times they weren't watching the game at all. They were watching something else when the game's going on. Nanakoke, I tried to watch his incredible goal in front of the net like 6 times. You can't see anything.
It was like the third replay you had to watch, and it was the one behind Burns. So you saw the pass, but you didn't see the finish.
Right. And so I have no idea what he did on that goal. And I know it was great, but I wish I could have seen it better than it was. I don't know, just bad. And even a few of the comments I saw were just, why is the and I noticed this pretty early on because I was watching the wrong thing essentially, but why the camera was behind the player's bench instead of facing the player's bench.
Oh, it's like that in Rochester too. I hate the arenas like that. I know it's the arena setup.
Right,
but
it's nothing they can do about it.
I hate it. I love seeing the players come off the bench because you can see it better. You know who's coming on the field. It's tough to watch a game like that. I didn't mind the field color. I mean, it was tougher to watch. It's definitely weird, but I wasn't, that's not what drew my eyes. It's okay.
Right.
This is another one of those ones, Rochester game. It's going to be behind the bench. But yeah, it's on top of that, on top of the bad camera angle already, you had the camera guy who's just not watching the play. It looked like it was somebody eating his dinner up there and just, oh crap, the play's down there now.
Pretty
it's
much.
like, follow the ball. I'm not fully blaming the person that's working the camera, because a lot of times the people that are working those cameras aren't typically there for a lacrosse game. And if you're not usually video photographing, I don't even know what that's called, a lacrosse game, yeah, you might be behind the play and not really know what's going on. Like hockey, if you're definitely doing hockey all the time, you're on the point. But since lacrosse is such a niche sport, it might not be a camera guy who has typically done it before, but just follow the ball. That's all you got to do in sports. Just follow where the ball goes. That's
especially with the panned back view. Like when
they
that
leave
one's
it
not
on,
keeping
they
up.
leave it on the goalies way too long. Also,
Right.
like after a big save, it's like stare at the goalie. He's not doing anything. The play's going on at the other end, but just stay on the goalie. Why?
But this is, again, just the little things the league needs to clean up. If you want to be the next big league, you can't have these camera angle mistakes. Whether it's the camera guy's fault or not, you need to get somebody who's done lacrosse games then and can follow the ball properly. Like, these are the little things that hold a league like this back. Like, it's just, and I don't know if this was the TSN game of the week. I thought I heard it got bumped
to it. Yes.
So that's embarrassing. Like, if this is the game of the week in Canada that you're showing, like, oh, come check out our league, 2 top teams, exciting game, and your camera crew can't follow the ball, like, that is not a good look for a league trying to be as official as possible. It's just, I hate harping on something like this, but it needs to be brought up because it was tough to watch as somebody who's watching at home trying to take notes on what's going on, and I can't see what's going on the play. But as for the bench thing, just early on, I kept seeing the rush change, and I was like, well, they're wide open. Where are the Bandits? Why is nobody coming on the field? They got a huge breakaway, and then you see them like come from the other side. I'm like, oh, all right, that's fair. I kind of, it's like, oh my gosh, their transition's amazing. They're wide open so often.
Yeah, it was. I hate those type of games. That's why I hate watching games that Rochester hosts at home. It's not fun. But Farrell, I thought that battle between him and Naso was really good at the dot. It was 2 big-time face-off men just going back and forth. And it goes back to my point of last week where I think it was Evan Schemenauer's or Graham Perot's. I think it was Graham Perot's article saying, like, there's so many good face-off men in the league now that face-offs don't really matter anymore because there's so many good ones. It was just a battle between 2 great face-off guys. And
even
I thought the times that Farrell won it clean, he was able to find the guy again. This is 3 straight games where he was able to, when he wins it clean, he knows exactly where to go. And when he doesn't know where to go and doesn't see a guy open, he's running to a good spot where there's space rather than just up the field and into a corner. So I think he is learning the box game and kind of finally coming into his own at the faceoff dot. But we'll go over the rest.
Even though he, the rush won 2 more than the Bandits, but I think the big thing with that is what we've always talked about with faceoffs is I think Naso only won maybe one
or
where
2.
he kind of got a clean win and ran away. Other than that, it was just a huge battle between it where they might pick up the loose ball, but it wasn't, or the violation. But for the most part, it wasn't odd man opportunities created from the faceoff on a direct win, and that's bigger than anything. Like that, if you're going to lose it, at least tie it up, make a scramble, make it tough for the team to actually do anything with that face-off win, and that's what Farrell's been really good at.
So refs, really quick. I'm not going to harp on them. Like there was a handful of bad ones. I'm not saying anything resulted in anything bad. Priello's first cross-checking call, it was a good one. His 4-minute call, you could have gotten away with the first one, and then you had a hit Keenan in the head. That's why you got the second one. I didn't like the tripping call on Nanakok. He got the stick, and then the player's stick is what caused him to trip up. I thought it was a good one. It reminded me of the McKay one last week where McKay got all stick, but it just happened so quick, and the referee's behind the play. I think that's what contributed to it. Didn't like the cross-check from Nick Weiss. The guy was falling, yes, but I don't even know if he touched him. Like, I don't know if he touched him with his stick. That was a bad call. But the worst one of all, and I am at the point where it's just, I'm not mad at the call. I'm mad at the inconsistencies of the calls we have seen. Mike Triolo played with his helmet off for a full 2 seconds. He was playing the ball. Like,
on
even
top
if you
of
want,
it.
Yeah, even if you want to say, okay, you're not calling it because he's on the ground and he can't really get out of the situation. He's actively playing to get the ball.
Yeah.
Like he made contact with the ball
Multiple times.
That is that exact scenario right there is why they want to take that out of the game of players playing without a helmet, because he's vulnerable in that situation.
He's on the ground without a helmet. That's the exact situation that they don't want you in.
That should have been called. Like that was a clear. I'm not even blaming and saying like they're out to get Buffalo. I'm never. Like, we've been doing this for 4 years. Everybody should already know we're not saying that the refs are out to get Buffalo. It's just that call needs to be called if you're calling it for different situations. Like the Nick Weiss one where he's taking 2 extra steps and passing it. If that's getting called, this one definitely should be getting called. It's just the inconsistencies of that call. He's playing without a helmet. If you want to blow it dead, but you got to change the rules then. This was a clear violation that should have been blown dead, and he should have been called for a penalty. Like I don't like that it's a penalty in that situation because he had no control of his helmet coming off because the stick got caught underneath it and popped off. But blow the play dead and then wipe it out. But according to the rules, that should have been a penalty, and that was clearly missed. And that is one thing that I don't understand why more players on the field weren't arguing for it harder. Yes, it was an 8-second call, but that's a clear, obvious violation for a call that Buffalo has been called on twice this year, which rightfully called, but this is one that they just missed.
Yeah, I think it might have been because at least from the bench there, it was in the corner where they're trying to look past the rush bench to see what's going on in there, and then they had his back to him. So I'm not sure if Johnny specifically had a good view of it, but the players did point. But like you said, I'm surprised they weren't more adamant and yelling at the refs about what the heck. Like, we've been called on this twice. Cloutier did less in his penalty on that situation where he took 1 swipe at the ball and ran off, and he got called for it. And this was way worse than what Cloutier did in a similar situation where it was a scrum, lost his helmet, took a swipe, ran off, and that was called immediately. Yet Triolo's down there for 2 seconds on the ground over the ball, swiping at it with his stick, and the ref is right there on top of the situation and calls absolutely nothing other than an 8-second violation, and the Rush get the ball. Like, that is just, like you said, it's not necessarily that the refs did it on purpose against the Bandits, but it is a situation where the league needs to clean up the consistency on that call. The 2 against the Bandits, I think, were the correct calls, but this was clearly missed, and it's an issue throughout the league.
Yeah, I hope this is one that they're looking at in the offseason and change it to. It's not a penalty. It's just you blow the play dead, and it's change of possession. Yeah, 100%. I think that's what it should be moving forward, but currently, based on the rule, that should have been called. Again, not fighting in favor of Bandits whatsoever. It's just you got to be consistent with those type of calls, and that's what we've been harping on the refs for years. I think they've been better this year than they have in the past. I thought they were good last year as well. It's just there's some clear and obvious ones that just go missed, and it's puzzling. But we'll go over our third sponsor before we get into the milestones, the NL Outlook. The third sponsor of the show is the Totally Buffalo store. Their mission is to celebrate all things Buffalo with over 100 local artisans. That is a lot. They are the place to go when you need a gift for a friend or you just want to shop around for something for yourselves. Be a little greedy. Treat yourself. They offer 3 locations, 3328 Sheridan Drive in Amherst, 3459 Amelia Drive in Orchard Park, and 467 for you Northtowners, Center Street in Lewiston.
PK, March is officially upon us. It came up kind of quick-ish. February was long, snowy, and icy, but with March comes St. Patrick's Day, your day of the year. Totally Buffalo has you covered with brand new Buffalo Irish merchandise in the form of apparel, hair accessories, jewelry, decor, and more. If you check out their Facebook page, they also recently added 21 new photos of some of the merchandise they offer from their 100 local artisans and vendors, including some of that Buffalo Irish merchandise. You can check out their Facebook and go to totallybuffalostore.com to check out their website.
Yeah, I'm going to be shopping there. We're hosting a St. Patrick's Day party in a couple weeks. Going to get festive with some Buffalo apparel. Absolutely love it. Can't wait to go to my Northtown shop in Lewiston because that's the closest one to me. But we'll go over the milestones really quick. We said it last week, and I'm going to say it again. Come on, guys. Let's accomplish some of these milestones because they're stacking up. And if you want to hear me talk for over a minute, you're doing a good job of it. Nick Weiss did crossed the 900 loose ball mark for his career. Congratulations to him. Huge accomplishment. He's coming up quickly. He's 95 away from 1,000, so we'll see you very shortly again, Nick Weiss. Dane Smith is now in the top 10. He passed Gary Gate 4 points in NLL history. He needed 4. He got 5. Congratulations. Huge accomplishment when he's only 32. He's going to be at the top of that leaderboard before we know it. Steve Priolo only needed 1 assist to tie Micah Kersey for 7th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He got exactly 1, so he's 1 away from passing him. And Connor Farrell did pass Darius Kilgore for 9th place in faceoffs for Buffalo Bandits in his career. He got 20. He's 14 away from Ian McKay for 8th. Only 4, though. 4. Next Friday, or coming up Friday, there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot because there was a lot in the wings that were like just out of reach, and some things happened, so they're within reach, so they got to be added here, and things weren't crossed off. Dane Smith is really ticking me off. He's got to be better because he's got to start checking these off. It's stacking up. He just wants to hear his name over and over and over because mission accomplished.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. He's doing just enough to keep his name out there, but at the same time, not enough to make sure he continues to be on these
well said.
ridiculous things. Ian McKay, also, step up your points. Come on. I know you're having an amazing season, but 0, you're better than that, and you know.
Yeah, him playing mostly transition definitely did not help there.
Okay.
But we'll move on and keep doing it. It's going to push you up in the transition player of the year, although I think we're going to go over in a second round. Tarafanko is kind of running away with it now. Georgia versus Ottawa on Friday night. Georgia takes this one 15-9. The Teat Whisperer was quiet once again. Ottawa took an early 2-0 lead, but then 5 straight by Georgia in the first gives them the 5-2 lead. Then reverse 5 straight from Ottawa. They take a 7-6 lead into half. Georgia would score 9 of the next 11 in the second half to take it 15-9, moving them to 7-4, dropping Ottawa to 5-6 under 500. The second game on Friday, Rochester doubles up Albany 14-7. They held a 3-0 lead after 5-2 Rochester at half. Albany would get to 8-7, but Rochester would score the final 6 to just dominate that one. They're getting back into it. 6-7 right now. Rochester's doing what they did last year, slowly sneaking back in. Albany 3-9. Best they can finish is 9-9. I think their season is up. See you later. See you next year. 2 more games. Calgary versus Colorado. Colorado takes this one in the first full absence of Zed Williams being out of the lineup for a while. I think it's his Achilles. He's probably going to be missing quite a bit of time here. Colorado takes this one 11-8. Colorado 5-0 in the first, 7-2 at half. It was never very close whatsoever. Colorado moves to 7-5. Calgary 6-6. We're going to see them the next 2 weeks. The final game, 6-4 Halifax takes down the 3-8 Vegas. Vegas, see you next year. Halifax moves to 7-4, 4-1 at half, 7-3 after the end of the third. This another one wasn't very close. Buffalo and Saskatchewan were by far the best games of the night. The rest of them were kind of just like, it's over at half. So I guess the Rochester one got close in the end of the fourth, but it ended up not being close. But yeah, some teams are pulling away. It's going to be there's a top 2, and then there's a separation in the tier 2 coming up here pretty quickly.
Yeah, I thought the Ottawa team, I think they collapsed twice now in the second half of their game where they were down for a bit, like you said, then 5 straight by Ottawa, and this one took a 7-6 lead in a half, and then monster collapse, and you would never know looking at that score that game was close or that Ottawa was leading at halftime. I believe they did something very similar last week where they were down by a bunch, finally caught up. I think they either tied. I think they took the lead again, and then once again just let way too many goals in without scoring any and just collapsed in the second half of their game. Albany, Rochester's looking good. They are really starting to turn it around. They still have a ways to go for sure, but this is the team that we kind of expected coming into the season. They're finally rounding into form, and after, I think it was last year, they started hot and crashed. This year, they started slow and are picking it up. They're mixing up their strategies in season. Calgary, Colorado, I think the biggest thing with that one is Nick Rose's debut for Calgary. Did not go how they would like it to. 11 goals, realistically, not that bad against a Colorado offense, which is very good, but 5-0 in the first, pretty rough. But if you take that out, the last 3 quarters, he only allowed 6 goals. That is what the Nick Rose you're looking for. The offense for Calgary did nothing to support him. Very similar to the offense in Toronto, Nick Rose. You seem to be in, once again, similar situation. Wherever he goes, the offense on his team collapses. Halifax took care of business against Vegas. Not too exciting there, but Tarasenko, like you mentioned, ridiculous player. He's very scary because I know the Bandits have to play them coming up, but he is scary. Teat for Ottawa, though, 4-3-7. Not a bad game, but Ottawa just not enough. That's a team that is still all over the place. They have a really good game, and then a terrible game, and a decent game, and then a bad game, and then a good game. I don't know what they're doing. Georgia seems to be pulling away, though, toward the top of the standings. They're starting to make themselves look a little bit better.
Yeah, it's starting to get a divide, like I mentioned. Buffalo, we'll look at the standings really, really quick. Buffalo's 9-1, top spot. Saskatchewan's right behind them at 9-3, but the difference, they got 2 more losses than Buffalo right now. That's the key. Then you're looking at Halifax and Georgia. If the playoffs started today, both of those teams would be hosting a playoff game. They're both 7-4. Really, look at the loss totals rather than the win totals right now because there's still the discrepancy on how many games are played. Then you got Colorado in 5th right now, 7-5. Again, right there. Then I think there comes a split. Calgary's at 6-6. Rochester's in the 7th spot. They snuck up there. They're 6-7 though. So that's the key. They've already got 7 losses. San Diego rounds out the top 10 at 5-6. Then you got Philly at 5-6, Vancouver 5-6, Ottawa 5-6, and we'll forget the bottom 3 because they're done. But I still think 10 wins is going to get you in. I don't think 9 wins is going to get you into the playoffs. If it is, it's sneaking in, and I think there might be a couple teams tied at 9-9 that, last year was that 8-7 mark. But without Panthers sitting in the lineup, I think 9-9. If you want to guarantee your spot in the playoffs, that's the better way to put it. Get to 10-8. I think you're guaranteed a spot. If you want to fight for a head-to-head battle and in a tiebreaker, go down to tiebreakers, I think 9-9 will get you in. But I really think 10-10 is the mark you got to be at. Buffalo's 1 away from that. Saskatchewan's 1 away from that. Halifax, Georgia, and Colorado, 3 wins from that. So there's still a lot to be shooken out. I got there. But I do think we're starting to see a little bit more separation from some of the top teams, as the season goes. It's week 15 coming up, but I think week 14 kind of was able to separate some of these guys, like Halifax and Colorado, kind of pulling themselves a little further away than the rest of them.
And Calgary, as much as they should be a top team or were for a little bit, they're in trouble now. I mean, At this point, like you mentioned with the losses, if you think 10-8 gets you in, if they lose to the Bandits in 2 weeks in a row, they're at 6-8. Then you have to go 4-0 to get to that 10-8. So these next 2 games for Calgary are massive. This loss to Colorado
That's why I said it was a
massive.
must-win for both those teams. I said it was a must-win between Colorado and Calgary, and whoever doesn't come out could be in trouble. And Calgary is probably the one that needed the win the most.
Yeah, having to play the Bandits back-to-back weeks. The Bandits look really, really good. I know they got Rose. Maybe they'll figure things out, but if you lose these next 2, you go from being in a really good comeback position from how they started the season to looking like you might miss playoffs if you don't turn it around. So Calgary, out of everything that happened this weekend, I think they are the biggest loser, arguably, in this setup.
Agreed. Fully support that stance. But we will have the Calgary representative on the show on Wednesday for the interview, and then we'll go over Calgary versus Buffalo on the show on Friday. We'll head into our last segment here. Sabres. We gave a quick preview. They were down 3-1 after 1 when we were recording on Thursday. They ended up dropping that one 5-2. Tuck and Paterka were the goal scorers. UPL made 5 of 7 saves before he was pulled, and Reimer comes in, played very nicely, 27-29. Shots were 37-15 in favor of Carolina. I always struggle twice. If you ever notice, I don't struggle just once. I try to correct it and I ruin it, and then I have to go a third time. Buffalo 1 for 3 on the power play. Saturday versus Montreal, though, 4-2 loss. Tuck, Kulik were the goal scorers. UPL 25-28 saves. Shots were 29-25 in favor of Buffalo. 0 for 2 on the power play. They're sitting 24-29-5, 53 points. They're 4 behind Pittsburgh to try to get out of the cellar of the East, and they're 12 points back of Detroit for the wild card. They got Montreal on Monday and San Jose on Tuesday. But, again, I said I'm going to be positive the rest of the season. Again, they're never making playoffs again, so it puts me in a good mood. Alex Tuck is getting back to that goal-scoring touch that I didn't think I thought he was always going to be a 20-25 goal scorer. He's got 22 on the season right now. He's on pace to go over 30. If you're getting 30 goals from an Alex Tuck type of player, it's a good top line point getter. I really liked Alex's Tuck game so far. You had him Paterka, whose name's popping up in the trade market now. I don't think he's going anywhere because I think the trade deadline is the 9th, I believe, in the NHL. I could be wrong. I think it's the 9th, though. And then Kulik's, he's really turned into a legit player. But to me, I think it's time to put Tage Thompson back at center. I think it's time to put Kulik back on the wing because I think Tage Thompson is a center now. I don't think his time on the wing, I don't think he's a winger anymore. I think he's the best center this team has, and I think it's time to move him back to center. I know they moved him there for injury and working his way back, but I think it's time to move our center number 1 back to the center number 1 position.
We have back-to-back NLL and NHL trade deadlines,
Yes.
so that'll be hopefully something to talk about between both teams there. As far as UPL goes, is it a UPL issue, a defense issue, a combination issue? What are your feelings so far on UPL's season that he's had up to this point?
For that one, I thought they pulled him way too early. I thought I would have liked to see him try to play through it. I mean, again, you're missing playoffs, so why are you pulling him already? But I think it's a combo. I don't think he's played the type of goaltender that we saw last year. I think we see it in spurts, but I don't think he's been as good as he needs to be.
Consistently, yeah.
But also the defense is just not as good. They should be better than they are based on all the players' names that are back there.
All right. I was just curious on your UPL update because you had him slumping back down.
I think he's making the money he should be. I'll put it like that. I think his
fair.
contract's where it should be for the performance that you're getting.
And that's what you like to see most. People earning the contract that they have. So we'll take it. And I don't know how long they're going to let Levi cook, but he is having a lot of fun on the for sure. But even next year, I don't know if it's his time or if he's going to be one more year down there, but he's having a lot of fun and he is shining bright for the AHL team. So good for him. Keep winning, keep having fun, and stay away from the black hole of the Sabres.
Yeah, now that we have like another minute or two before we hit that hour mark, I'll ask you a quick question. Sum it up in 30 seconds. Do you think you should give the net to Levi starting next year, or do you think he should spend another year down in Rochester? Because when you're looking at him, I mean, he's been a pro for close to 2 full years at this point. I think it's coming up on 2 full years. He's really only played 50 or 60 games in the AHL. That's not much for a goaltender. Do you want him to compete with UPL for the number 1 job out of camp next year, or do you want him to cook down in Rochester a little bit more? I mean, he's putting up numbers like Ryan Miller used to, but do you think he's ready?
I think it all depends on what the team thinks. I mean, he's 23 years old, UPL's 25, so that difference in age is where we're at. The difference
they rushed
in careers.
UPL also.
They did. They're really trying to get back to playoffs, and it's going miserably for them. But it's tough. Again, I think it depends on where the team is. I don't think UPL's a bad goalie in the NHL. I think he is fine as your starter. If your defense can give him some support, I think he can do enough to win you games. So I don't think there is a reason to rush Levi up right now. I think UPL is more than capable of winning games with you if your team is actually performing well in front of him, both the offense and the defense. So if he was just having a season that we saw a few years ago where he was just god awful and he was having a really, really bad time, I think it'd be easier to force Levi up a little bit quicker. But with how UPL's playing, I don't think he's playing bad enough where you're like, oh my gosh, we need to get a new goalie in here right now. He's not the reason they're losing games. It's a combination of a lot of different aspects. So to me, I would let Levi cook as long as you physically can, because there's just no reason to rush him. And like you said, they already ruined UPL's development. Yes, he went through a lot of injuries early on, but his development was rushed. And I'm not saying he's trash by any means, but had he stayed down a little bit longer, he could be even better for it. Like, I feel like it's one of those things where if his development and expectation could have been a 95 out of 100 of a NHL goalie. Well, now because of his development, his ceiling's closer to an 85 instead of that 95. And it's because they rushed him. He can only be as good as he can get, or maybe it'll be like Allmark, where it took him that much longer in the NHL to really realize his potential. Where I think Levi if with how well he's doing and clearly is developing, I would say let him stay down there, let him learn, and do not rush him to get him up here for a team that still can't make playoffs. So there's just no reason to. There's no reason to rush him.
Yeah, I'm on board with keeping Levi down there for a whole nother full season. So sorry,
agreed.
but that's just my opinion. But that will wrap up this episode. Remember, Wednesday, we got an interview coming out with a Calgary person to break down them and what their season looked like so far, and look ahead to Buffalo versus Calgary Roughnecks coming up on the Friday preview show, which we'll talk about that one. Then we got 2 Sabres games we'll talk about on the Friday show. And other than that, have a fun week, a nice save week, and we'll see you all then. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room, Totally Buffalo Store, and Phrase Flowers for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article's coming out on Tuesday. Mine's coming out on Thursday. Check out our store on our link tree, on our social media sites, or at the shop tab at the top of the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.